Hey, we want you to be part of our studio audience. Believe us, it's a great time for everyone. To book your seat, just visit WBOC.com, click on our picture at the top of the page, or you can give us a call, 443-880-9116.
So there are about 20 lighthouses on Delmarva, which of course makes sense considering the peninsula is surrounded by water.
Yeah, and some of the lighthouses are bayside while others stand along the shoreline. Well, there's one lighthouse in particular that, although not the oldest, has a particularly interesting history, and one local group is working to keep that history alive.
A beacon that once navigated mariners along the shore of Delmarva now lets visitors know they have found Fenwick Island.
My great-great-great-great-grandfather was the assistant keeper in 1869, and his term lasted about 16 or 17 years.
Tracy Lewis and her mother Winnie not only see this guiding light as an asset to travelers of generation past, but a treasure of the island.
The lighthouse was built in 1859, and it was requested by several groups because ships were running aground in the Fenwick Shoals, which is about 15 miles offshore. So they requested a lighthouse in between the Assateague Lighthouse and the Cape Henlopen Lighthouse.
At the time the lighthouse was built, Fenwick Island was barely inhabited.
There was not anything on Fenwick Island. It was very desolate. There may have been one farmhouse on the island.
In fact, just getting on the island was a challenge.
You had to cross what's called the Fenwick Ditch. They had what was called a scow, and your wagon and horse and your supplies or belongings were put on that, and there was a pulley system where you pulled yourself to the other side.
The lighthouse was built on 10 acres of land that was purchased for $50. It also has the highest elevation on the island. As it turns out, the Transpeninsular Line intersects the property. A marker still stands here today.
That line is actually older than the lighthouse itself. It was a marker to divide the boundaries of Delaware and Maryland to the Chesapeake Bay.
A keeper's house was built to accompany the lighthouse. The keeper and his family lived downstairs. The assistant keeper and his family lived upstairs. In 1878, a second keeper's dwelling was built for the assistant keeper and his family. The tower stands 87 feet from the ground. At the top is what's called a Fresnel lens, which collects and focuses the light rays into a horizontal beam far more efficiently than the more common reflector system. Powered by whale oil, the original beam could be seen 15 miles in the ocean. Today, the light is for decorative purposes only.
A lot of the lighthouses were decommissioned in the 70s. So this lighthouse was decommissioned in the 70s, and at that time it was almost immediately turned over to the state of Delaware.
The original Fresnel lens was packed up and sent to New York.
So the lighthouse was dark for a number of years. There were politicians and residents in the area that encouraged the lens to come back.
And it did. Today, the lighthouse serves as a tourist stop in Fenwick Island.
We basically keep the lighthouse on weekends in the summer months open to the public. There is a restriction on climbing, but we have lots of photographs and things that people can see and view the history.
And although the state of Delaware owns the lighthouse, a volunteer group called the New Friends of the Fenwick Island Lighthouse manages it and maintains the grounds surrounding it. Visitors can even see this centuries-old salt pot.
There were a group of men in the 1700s that did salt making, and they actually would dig potholes up near the sand dunes and put that water in this pot, put this pot in an encasement, and basically cook it until it was all salt. And then they would barrel it or put it in bushels and sell it,
giving visitors a taste of times gone by.
It's great that there's still an interest here for the lighthouse. We enjoy seeing people love it as much as we do, and we want to preserve it as long as we possibly can.
Making the Fenwick Island Lighthouse a Delmarva treasure.
Now, August 1st of this year marks 155 years since the lighthouse was officially lit. The new Friends of the Fenwick Island Lighthouse are always looking for volunteers and donations. If you would like to find out more about the group and the lighthouse, go to WBOC.com, click on our picture on the top of the page. And that was a whole lot of fun being out there.
That was fascinating.
Yeah, although visitors can't go up, obviously we
Right.
went up so that we could get the pictures and everything. And that was interesting, I have to say, going
Oh
up
my
those little tiny stairs up to the top.
All the way to the top.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. That was a great story. Now, another thing is taking place this summer, in fact, in just one day, the new season of Big Brother. Up next, we're meeting the house guests, plus after 16 seasons, find out what the executive producers say will finally happen this time around. Delmarva Live, we'll be right back.